The NPD Group just released their report for the month of May, detailing the best-selling hardware and software for the month. And God of War 2 remains the top-selling game for 2 months in a row. Wait a minute. God of War wasn't the best-selling game? But you assured me that it was going to win its second month. Okay, well, what ended up being number 1? Was it Detroit Become Human? Detroit was number 3? Wow. Well, what else came out in May? Was Dark Souls Remastered number 1? Surely it couldn't have been, right? Oh, it didn't even chart in the top 20? Oh my god, what a disaster. So, if it wasn't God of War, and it wasn't Detroit or Dark Souls, what game won? State of Decay 2 was number 1? Oh my god.
Oh man. Oh god. Oh man. Oh god. Oh man. Oh god. Oh man. Oh god. Oh man.
What's going on, guys? Thor 19, the man with the million, back again with another video, and I hope you enjoyed that little funny bit I tried doing to intro the video. Hopefully you guys found it funny, and if you did, give the video a thumbs up. But we have a lot of topics, a lot of info to parse out here. What were the best-selling games? What was the best-selling hardware? And is Xbox Game Pass really promoting growth and driving extra sales of Xbox games? It's something to really consider. But let's get into it. The big topic, of course, the one that you're going to see all the websites run with and all the fans talk about on social media, is that State of Decay 2 was number 1. Not God of War, not Detroit Become Human, but little old budget title, AA game, State of Decay 2. It was the May's best-selling game, and its launch month sales nearly doubled that of the previous game, State of Decay. And you know what? That's pretty impressive considering where it sits on Metacritic. It's currently at a 68, and to see it chart so high really was something not a lot of people predicted. And of course, you have the Xbox Game Pass effect. When it was originally announced in January that all Microsoft first-party games were going to go into Game Pass, people thought it was going to negatively impact retail sales. And clearly that doesn't seem to be the case, but we're going to delve into that topic a little bit later in the video, as I feel that not only is it important to Microsoft right now, but it could become really important to the whole video game industry in the future. So State of Decay 2, number 1, which means God of War ended up being number 2 for the month. And not only that, but it's number 2 overall in year-to-date sales, only trailing Far Cry 5. So it's possibly going to be the best-selling exclusive of the year, potentially. And I mean, it's almost already the best-selling game of the year besides Far Cry. That is a huge accomplishment for a game on a single platform. And what can you really take away from this month is, well, number 1, number 2, and number 3 are exclusive games. That's right, Detroit Become Human, which launched the same week as State of Decay 2. It also ranked really high. So exclusives do matter, people. Don't let anybody tell you they don't. So launch month sales for Detroit Become Human represent a record high for developer Quantic Dream, with sales growth of over 20% when compared to its previous launch month bestseller, which was Heavy Rain. And I'm very happy that it's outsold Heavy Rain, or at least selling better, because quite frankly, Heavy Rain wasn't very good and Detroit is so much better. But of course, it's not all about just Microsoft and Sony. Switch is also seeing incredible sales growth, as May generated a growth of 90% when compared to a year ago, delivering the highest software revenues for any Nintendo platform in May since the Nintendo Wii all the way back in May 2011. Now, another note I wanted to kind of pass along about State of Decay 2 and how well it's actually doing, because I don't want to understate this, is that NPD reports by revenue, not actual total game sales. So the fact that it's number 1 says a lot, because it's also a $30 title, so it doesn't generate as much revenue as a game like God of War does or a game like Detroit does, because those are $60 games. So for State of Decay to generate as much revenue as Detroit, if Detroit sold 100,000 copies to generate the same amount of revenue, State of Decay would have to sell 200,000. Little simple math for you guys there. So the fact that State of Decay was number one based on the revenue means that it sold way more actual units than Detroit or God of War this month. So that's really impressive. And I know it has a $50 version for the Ultimate, but obviously the $30 version was the one that sold the most. So kudos to Undead Labs and Microsoft. Hopefully with them joining Microsoft Studios now, State of Decay 3 can get more money, more employees working on it, better tech, dedicated servers, so we can have a true shared open world zombie game, and that AAA State of Decay game that people wanted for State of Decay 2, which didn't come to pass. But it's not all about the software sales, it's also about hardware. And hardware was pretty damn good. It's the best hardware sales since May of 2011. That's the other thing you'll notice here, and is what I've been kind of talking about for the last few months. Basically, this entire year is that everybody is doing amazingly, but of course, if you listen to certain people, it's only one console, maybe two consoles doing well, but NPD, the guys here saying everybody's doing great. It's the hardware units, the highest hardware unit sales since May of 2011, and the big three all are breaking records. Sony's PlayStation 4, Microsoft's Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch all achieved all-time unit sales high for May. PlayStation 4's previous high for May was 2016. Obviously, Switch's high was May of last year, and Xbox's high was May for 2015. So all three of them did the best so far for the month of May. PlayStation 4 was, of course, number one. It remains the best-selling console platform year to date. Switch has the top-selling SKU, which is that neon red and blue. They were number two, and of course, Xbox rounded out the third spot. But according to all the analysts here, all three of them are doing pretty amazing. But if you want to take a look at the top 20 games here, because I like to take a look at how everything's doing, we have State of Decay 2 at number 1, God of War at number 2, Detroit Become Human at number 3, Far Cry 5 hanging in there at number 4, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze at number 5, Grand Theft Auto 5 at number 6, still that game that came out in 2013, 5 years later, still in the top 10. Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition at 7, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege at 8, Tom Clancy Rainbow Six climbing back in there, a game that came out in 2015, Mario Kart 8 at number 9, NBA 2K18 at number 10, MLB, Call of Duty World War II, Super Mario Odyssey, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, FIFA 18, Overwatch, Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection, PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, Assassin's Creed Origins, and Monster Hunter World all round out the top 20. And just look at all those exclusives in the top 10. You have State of Decay 2, God of War, Detroit, Donkey Kong Country, Hyrule Warriors, Mario Kart 8. You have 6 out of the top 10 titles, all exclusives. So yes, they do matter. And of course, we should all know that. Microsoft just went out and bought 5 new studios so they can make exclusive games. So that narrative of exclusives don't matter hopefully dies down again, because clearly people want exclusive experiences on their platform of choice. Now, the other interesting takeaway from all this is the effect of Game Pass on a title. We've seen it with Sea of Thieves, where Microsoft said, we did all this, the game did really well on Game Pass and actually sold incredibly well. People were like, yeah, Microsoft, whatever, Sea of Thieves, Sea of Snooze, Sea of Z's, who really cares? And then you had State of Decay 2 coming out 2 months later, and people were once again wondering how that game would do. And here you have it, where it's number 1, it's clearly selling way more than Detroit and God of War, just based on the fact of the whole revenue thing, which I explained earlier in the video. And then you have Phil Spencer himself and actually saying in an interview recently that what they're seeing with Game Pass is that people who are subscribers to Game Pass buy more games, and that these games that are in Game Pass actually sell more units at full price than previously, and both Sea of Thieves and State of Decay 2 actually sold well beyond their internal forecasts. And are we in a situation here that a subscription-based service is actually help selling full price games? It's kind of a weird concept, and I'm going to let Phil actually kind of explain it to you if you don't believe me. So I'm going to let you listen to this Giant Bomb interview where he talks about it.
We launched Game Pass last year, and you look at the long-term strategy there, that you're making games accessible to people who, for some reason, whether it was price point of the retail game when it came out, or they didn't, it was in the shadow of a bigger launch and they just didn't see this game when it came out. And we see that in Game Pass today. I mean, people in Game Pass, there's two stats that always surprise me. One is I think on a monthly average, a Game Pass player plays 4 or 5 more games than a non-Game Pass player. They just go and click, which is, and they're more games. So that's not their total game. They're playing a lot more games. They're also buying more games, which at first I'm like, that surprised me. Okay, you're in Game Pass, but what happens is just as they're turning on their console more, obviously, to go play more games. Right. They're getting connected to more friends. That's also true of people in Game Pass. And then they go out and buying more games, even though they're part of this subscription. And we're continuing, as you said, to add games to Game Pass. And then you take the next leap and says, okay, for a customer where paying $60 for a retail game isn't really part of their what they can either afford or just their lifestyle right now. Right. Does that model open up opportunities on other devices? Absolutely, I think it does. I think PC is an obvious place for us to go because we're Windows. Of course. Our PC portfolio in Game Pass today is not great, so we'd need to go do more work there before I'd want to launch it and try to get you to sign up or something. Right. Yeah. And then you take that and you say, okay, I've got this service that could go to any device. I think that just opens up opportunities for developers because, as I said before, if I'm a developer of a game that is locked to a couple devices, all of a sudden I'm in this service that reduces kind of business model friction on people playing more games and reaches more devices. The other thing I'll say on Game Pass with Sea of Thieves and State of Decay, too, the 2 games we've launched in, it's just 2 games. So I don't know that means we have complete data. But on those 2 games, we sold more copies of those games than we expected. Interesting. I mean, we have our internal forecast. You can't do an A/B test of what if it was in and what if it was out. So I don't have the before and after on both scenarios. But I guess people just have to trust me, whatever that means for a video game exec. But that we had our forecast for how many copies of Sea of Thieves we were going to sell, and we sold more than we did, significantly more. And the same thing was true of State of Decay, even though both of them were in Game Pass.
Right. Well, I mean, I guess on some level that makes sense because if you look at both games, they are, in the case of Sea of Thieves, it is like a social experience. Yeah. If you've got more of your friends playing that game because they're in Game Pass or because they bought it, either way, they're going to be more likely to influence you to pick it up. I would assume State of Decay 2, probably a similar situation with its multiplayer aspect. You're going to
the only thing, and I don't have data on this because we haven't done it yet, but the only thing I might add on top of that is I actually think it's just because more people are playing the game. Because when you sit down and you see what are they playing in your friends list, all of a sudden you have millions of people that are playing the game. And yeah, I think social games have even more virality because you're like, hey, come on my galley, let's go.
So listening to Phil and kind of parsing what he's saying about the fact that Xbox Game Pass users buy more games even though they're subscribed to a service that gives them 100+ games. And by having something like Sea of Thieves and State of Decay 2 in the subscription service to add more value, which brings obviously monthly revenue to Microsoft, but also prompts more full-price retail and digital downloads of those said games, even though they're available for $10 a month through the subscription service, is something not a lot of people predicted. In fact, most people thought that it would cut into the full-price retail and digital sales of those games, and it's having a complete opposite effect. You recall all those stores when Game Pass was announced with Xbox exclusives going in their day one, saying that they were going to get rid of all their copies of Xbox's games because nobody was going to buy it anymore, and the complete opposite is happening. It's pretty fascinating to think about, where you have somebody who is paying $10 to get access to all these games and Microsoft's first-party titles there. You would think that the sales of the retail and digital versions would be lower, but they're not. They're actually increasing. Sea of Thieves and State of Decay actually did well beyond what their internal forecasts were. Now, I guess you could make the argument that maybe the casuals or regular people don't necessarily know about Xbox Game Pass, and I guess that's could be a factor. I don't really see a lot of commercials for it when I watch TV or on YouTube, but I mean, it is heavily promoted on the Xbox dashboard, so I don't really know. Microsoft has all the data, and they're saying like, yo, we're seeing this, like, it's pretty incredible, and you bet your ass everybody else in the gaming industry is seeing this as well. They get access to the NPD data, and I'm sure Microsoft is trying to heavily court third parties to get more of those day and date for Game Pass. Not only like indie developers, but potentially bigger third-party developers like Square Enix, Bethesda, things like that. And I'm sure they would be more willing to jump on board a program like this if not only Microsoft would cut them a check to be a part of Game Pass, but then they actually get increased sales of their full-price retail and digital games. It's a win-win for those people. And clearly, the video game industry has taken notice. Look at what the recent reports have come from Sony. That's they might be including or are including in the future, according to Kotaku, a download option for PS4 games in their PS Now subscription, which was streaming only. And this is where competition always helps gamers out. Microsoft comes with Game Pass, where you can download games. Sony looks like they're gonna, copy that idea, where Microsoft, copied Sony with giving out games with gold and things like that. So we win in this situation. And this might have long-term ramifications in the video game industry. If the subscription service actually drives sales of full-price games, you're going to see a lot of companies jump on board. And it's going to be really interesting how this all plays out down the road. Obviously, I think we need to get more data before you can make a conclusive decision, as we've only had Sea of Thieves and State of Decay 2 launch into it. I'm really interested to see what happens with Forza Horizon 4, because that is a huge franchise already. It kind of broke out with Forza Horizon 3, so if that game does far beyond 3, I mean, you might be talking about a new model here, or the model to copy going forward. Anyways, guys, that is the video. I hope you really enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Share this out on social media, as I would greatly appreciate that. And hit that notification bell if you want to be notified every time I drop new videos. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Hope everybody has a great rest of the day, and I'll see everybody in the next video. Later, guys.